It's time to discuss the last week in professional wrestling with That Way Cool Wrestling Show, Breakout.
Welcome everybody to another week of That Way Cool Wrestling Show presents Outbreak. I am your host, the Celtic Casanova, and I am joined by my real-life valet, my shoot accompaniment to the ring.
One day he'll get it right. We are here for Breakout this week,
Did I say Outbreak again?
It is hosted by DJB Productions Network. So make sure you get on our channel and give us a like. And you can't
subscribe.
Do 5 stars. That's
no
what
5 stars.
I realized that last time, but definitely subscribe because we've got some awesome.
Crack a beer and take off your pants. Time to talk about wrestling.
All right, Johnny. So, what do we have in the dirt sheets this week?
Well, it's been a week. The most interesting thing to me in the dirt sheets this week was Impact EVP Scott D'Amore have thrown out there to AEW that they would like to do a series of tag team wrestling with FTR against the North. All Ego, Ethan Page, and Alexander.
Okay.
Now, to me, that sounds fascinating. And in 2020, that's a way to keep the general public interested in wrestling again, is to have 2 rival companies join together to put on somewhat of a super show headlined by 2 incredible teams.
I mean, I guess for someone like me, I wasn't too familiar with Impact, but...
No, but this is a big deal. They are what is known as 2 of the best tag teams in the business right now from a traditional tag team wrestling standpoint. And I give it the full thumbs up.
I don't know if that's a full thumbs up. I feel like that's the whole point of the Orange Cassidy.
Well, outside of that, that's all rumor and innuendo.
Okay, well, how about Dominic Mysterio? What about...
Dominic Mysterio, we all know way back when his custody was settled in a ladder match. And now here we are years later. He's going to make his professional wrestling debut at SummerSlam this year against the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins. Because Seth Rollins a couple weeks ago took out his father's eye in what was Extreme Rules.
I was there for that.
It was terrible.
It
looked so stupid.
It was not as bad as last night. Or was it last night or the night?
Hold on, you're jumping ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's mine.
It was 2 nights ago.
Okay, same difference.
All right. So moving on from there, we have a potential location for SummerSlam, which was supposed to take place in Boston, Massachusetts.
Where now?
Now, supposedly on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, with a small gathering of fans around, which has been pretty successful for a couple independent companies that have run there. But with somebody as notoriety of WWE trying to run a show on the boardwalk, that could become a potential disaster with people coming from every which way to stand around the ring.
For a small crowd, for a WWE show.
Yeah, it's not a good idea in the pandemic. It's interesting. I'll take anything that's not in that performance center.
Didn't we just have a show, an indie show with like Joey Janela on the Atlantic City's boardwalk?
And that's
people are like this kind.
Oh my! Nobody has a mask on. All the wrestlers are shaking hands, bumping fists, slapping fives,
rubbing sweaty bodies together.
Ugh, I don't think it's a great idea. It is what it is. It'll be better than being at the Performance Center. That's for goddamn sure, with the beach as a backdrop. But moving on from there, NXT this week tried to spike their ratings.
Okay, yeah.
AEW's been killing them in the ratings, minus a couple weeks here and there. So they decided to bring in an ex-NFL punter to try to spike a rating. I mean, we're not talking about a quarterback. We're not talking about a wide receiver. We're not even talking about a linebacker. We're talking about a punter. The lowest of the low in the NFL, and they thought this was going to spike a rating to have Pat McCaffrey, as was just announced. As far as punters go, not to sell the guy short, he was probably the best at what he did, but still.
I still remember David Akers. He was the punter of...
He was a kicker.
What's the difference?
Big difference.
Oh, big difference. I knew that. Let's get on to the next.
But so Adam Cole versus Pat McCaffrey has been announced for NXT TakeOver 30. I don't know. It just doesn't move the needle for me. I don't care.
Okay. Well, let's hit the next topic there, Johnny.
So Raw decided they're going to spice things up this week. And I swear before Raw, somebody gave Vince McMahon a copy of Bloodsport and a copy of Fight Club. Because this Monday on Raw, Shane McMahon returned, and he introduced what's being called Raw Underground.
I feel like he just always is disappointing his father.
He does.
Always.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Wasn't there an article about that where Vince McMahon came out and said, God, you can't do anything right?
I think it was a parody article. So anyway, they have this Raw Underground concept. They have a ring with no ropes, and there appears to be much more of a bounce to this ring. I don't know what it is. And they proclaimed that there would be no rules in Raw Underground. It would be shoot fighting, so to speak. And they did this back in the 90s. It was called Brawl for All. That was an enormous failure. So naturally, we're going to try it again some 25 years later. And
not make it a success.
But the funniest part about this is they advertise as no rules, but the matches all ended within a minute and a half to referee stoppage. So you could argue that there are more rules in this than there were before.
Hunter's got his work cut out for him.
Oh, he sure does.
He really does.
I can't wait for him to take over and start looking the company.
Yeah, you would think it would be Shane, but or maybe I guess Stephanie's still in that kind of.
Yeah, I guess so. But moving on to Wednesdays, we had NXT up first. We'll talk about that. I don't know, just kind of flat this week. It's been flat since the COVID era. I can't blame it. I look forward to seeing what NXT becomes once again when it's not in the COVID era, when the fans are back, because the fans added so much to the NXT product.
You know, I feel like that really is kind of giving NXT an out, though, because look at AEW every week. I mean, I, for one, enjoy AEW every week. I think it's the only thing I can actually sit down and watch.
Flip, fly, and die. Let's go. I'm ready for AEW.
So I don't know if you can say that the crowd makes NXT. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
I get it. It definitely adds to the ambiance. And like when you watch AEW, it's more of a fun show. Like perception is everything. And the perception of AEW is it's bigger, it's better. It's not in some dark, dingy arena. Like it's in a stadium, it's open air. It's just a cooler vibe. But anyway, so NXT started off with Rhea Ripley against Dakota Kai for the number one contendership of the NXT Women's title.
Rhea Ripley.
What in the world
happened to her head?
Well, I was going to just say her in general.
Her head. Lady Pete Dunne has gotten a makeover.
I think that's why they had her dye her hair blonde, so she doesn't look so much like Pete Dunne.
That's what he said yesterday. Somebody said you look like Pete Dunne. We need to change it up.
But WWE, what are you doing with Rhea Ripley? She was one of the main events at WrestleMania against your biggest woman, Charlotte Flair. And since then, what? What are you doing? You can't even blame COVID because she's been there.
She's been there the whole time.
She's been on screen. What are you doing with her?
She's
your next star. Get it together.
Wow.
And then they had another qualifying triple threat match to qualify for NXT TakeOver 30 for the North American title, which was vacated by Keith Lee. Why he just didn't work twice in the show and defend both belts, I don't know, but we're going to get some cool-ass ladder match out of it. Bronson Reed and Dexter Lumis have already qualified for this match, but it was just announced that Dexter Lumis suffered an ankle injury and will no longer be able to compete. Now, I'm very curious how they replace him for this. So far, we have Bronson Reed and Damian Priest that just qualified for it this week.
Oh, and that has to do with the ladder match, right?
Yes.
Ladder match. I knew that. I wasn't paying attention to that NXT.
And I'm the one that's been drinking since noon. So after that, we have Killer Cross has announced that he's getting after Keith Lee's championship.
What did Keith Lee do to anybody? I think he's wonderful.
He's the best, but I mean, he's got a target on his back
yeah.
because he's got the title. Once you're the champion, you have a target printed on your back. I think Killer Cross is good, but they haven't done enough to build him up to make me care that he's anybody special that I should be worried about. Sure, he's got a great presentation. Scarlett Bordeaux lip sings the entrance music, which I think is corny as shit, but that is what it is.
Well, let's bump NXT out. I want to talk about AEW. Can we talk about AEW, please?
Hold on real quick. There's one thing that irritates the shit out of me about NXT, and it's this weird hockey glass thing that they have going on. They've got hockey glass, and the whole time the fans are slapping on it. It's annoying. It's just a lot of unnecessary noise going on the broadcast.
I was really hoping I could find something clear to hold up in front of my face so that I could beat like the fans, but it is horrible. It's bad. It's like a high school hockey game. Ooh.
I need you to start talking about AEW and the dogs unplug the computer.
Okay, well, let's get to AEW, okay? I'm sure Johnny doesn't want me to start AEW with this, but can we touch base on Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy?
Oh, we're starting with that?
Sammy Guevara did not mean to hit Matt Hardy in the face that hard, but let's just put it this way, Matt Hardy played it good.
Matt Hardy got 13 stitches after AEW. Guevara threw that chair at him, busting him open the hard way. My co-host on my other show, Mark Lindsay, brought up a good point, as it was kind of reckless the way he threw the chair. Matt Hardy, being the veteran and the consummate professional that he is, and realizes that made the segment that much better. I have to agree with my tag team partner, Mark Lindsay, on that one. It did make the segment all the much better. I'm sure Matt Hardy will be fine because it sincerely seems like he wants to help Guevara along because it's obvious Sammy Guevara is a major star in this business.
I hope Sammy Guevara is going for a heel. I like him.
He already is a heel.
Well, I mean, like more of one. He's tiny right now. He was just rolling around on the new scooter. I do. So let's touch base on Darby and Jon Moxley then, if I don't want.
I have the whole format here. She's not obeying the format.
It's going backwards.
You're just all over the place here. It's just pick and choose where you want ADHD at its finest. All right, we're going to talk about Mox and Darby now. We're going to
talk about Jon Moxley and Darby.
Phenomenal match. Absolutely phenomenal match. I loved it. I am not the biggest Jon Moxley fan. I love Darby Allin. I think Darby and Sammy are the future of this business. Darby Allin had an incredible showing. It looked like he died multiple times during the match. Moxley sold it as he liked Darby Allin. He respected Darby Allin. And the last thing he wanted to do was put him down, but he needed to retain his title. So he was sort of a sympathetic babyface.
I don't know. I think I really have a special place in my heart for Jon Moxley because Le Champion stabbed him in the eyeball. And
that's true.
And what did he do?
Well, years.
Well, something happened, but he stabbed him in the eyeball. And that happened for weeks.
Yes.
He was like this.
So, speaking of Mr. Jon Moxley, let's let that hashtag go rampant if the producer could throw it up. Hashtag not my champion.
Ooh.
MJF last week. We weren't here last week, but let's just briefly touch on this. MJF had probably one of the best promos of the last 5 years in professional wrestling last week. When he stood, thank you very much for the graphic, when he stood in front of that podium and he gave a state of wrestling address. MJF is 24 years old and he is way ahead of his time. He has no business being as good as he is right now.
What does that mean?
It just means that his promo, his in-ring, his everything.
So when people say my margaritas are better, should I not be doing better than you?
No, that doesn't mean anything, but the longer you're in the business, the better you are to get at the business is the way it should be.
So that's why my margaritas.
But MJF is picking it up. He's picking it up quick. At the age of 24, he's on deck for Jon Moxley's championship at All Out in September, I believe.
I think it is. I think you're right.
So we have the hashtag going rampant, not my champion, MJF 2020. And yeah, I do agree with the producer's graphic. He does have the potential to be the next Jericho, but what we do have to find out is we're still in the inaugural MJF. Can he reinvent himself the way that Jericho has over the years and managed to stay relevant for 30 plus years now?
I don't think so. I think he has a special talent and lots of dog love to propel him.
Time will tell. As long as he can afford a Burberry scarf, we're good to go.
Okay.
But speaking of Jericho this week had a debate with Mr. Orange Cassidy. Sam was undressing, you pervert. You sick freak.
It took a while for the button, didn't you?
So Orange Cassidy, he knew a lot about climate change, and that impressed Eric Bischoff, who came back to TNT to moderate it. Mind blown. Eric Bischoff back on a wrestling program on TNT. I love that silver fox. God, he looked handsome on Wednesday.
I mean, I was more impressed with Orange Cassidy's spiel about sea level, but I mean, yeah.
That's true. He was really OJ. I mean,
OC.
OJ killed the other fella.
Or it could be our lovely friend OJ. You know.
OJ Simmons, Big Pop.
OJ Simmons. Where's his
Best
voice?
voiceover guy in the
Where's his voice to
business.
come in?
Well, AEW kicked off hot. I mean, we're talking backwards. She's all over the place now.
But
it kicked off with one hell of a 12-man tag that furthered the storyline between FTR and the Bucks and the Elite and working together, and their somewhat of cohesion with Hangman Adam Page. And they fought the Dark Order, and that was one hell of a match. And during the match, Cash Wheeler or Dax Hardwood, I'm not used to their new names yet, but one of them got really hurt. They went to the back. Page left with them, and the Bucks left with them. Or, I'm sorry, one of the Bucks left, I believe. I don't know. It was chaos. It was a car crash. There were 12 men. It was wild. There is a Horseman stable coming. And I can't wait till the when happens of that. But the slow burn is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Now, should we get to our...
Sam, I will give you $5. $5! Right here. If you can name me any four horsemen.
Of the four horsemen?
Any of the four horsemen. $5 challenge. $5. $5. $5. $5. Is that four? $5. Yeah.
Wait, like, is it
Give me
like...
two. I'll
Is
take
it
two.
like people now or people like then?
There are no four horsemen now. The history of the four horsemen.
Oh, okay. So, shit. Oh, shit.
Filibuster.
No. I know who they are.
Well, this can only mean one thing. It's time for a last call.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, she doesn't.
It's always Ric Flair.
What's he say?
Oh, I should have known. Arn Anderson's just understood, but Ric Flair, come on now. Woo!
It's amazing how she adapts.
I mean, I listen, you know.
Last call.
Last call. Go ahead, Johnny.
My favorite thing in the week of wrestling, by far and away, was the Talkin' Shop-A-Mania pay-per-view that happened on Saturday night. Gallows and Anderson put on one hell of a show. It was a parody of the wrestling business and everything that's popular in wrestling.
It was wonderful.
It was in Gallows' backyard, but the main event to me was just so much fun. WWE's been trying their hand at cinematic matches, so naturally Gallows and Anderson parodied it. Parodied it.
There you go.
Parodied it. I can't say that.
Just skip over. Parodied.
Parodied.
He won't skip
Oh, yeah,
over
that's
it.
it.
Right
Just
there.
singular. Parried it. And so we got the Boneyard match. And for portions of the match, they talked like the Undertaker.
I don't think I've ever seen so many. You guys know how I love to be the bird watcher, but I've never seen so many banana hammocks in my life. Oh, it's great.
Chad Too Bad, a.k.a. Machine Gun Carl Anderson, against Sex Ferguson, a.k.a. Luke Gallows. But was just the most fun I've had watching wrestling in forever. It ended when Chad Too Bad threw Sex Ferguson into the grave with a dildo hanging out of it, waving in the wind. And then after the pay-per-view was about to go off the air, Sex Ferguson pops out of it. And we might have a continuation. Maybe. Talking Shop-A-Mania 2.
Do you think that's why the people at the sex shop looked at us so funny? Because we were talking about the dildo in the grave and they didn't get the content?
Probably had everything to do with me talking to the Undertaker voice, too. Where do you keep the rabbits?
I mean,
For
minus
the
that and
stimulation.
I don't know,
So
him
she
placing
can rest.
everything back in its cup holder, going.
All right, what's your last call? What was your favorite thing this week in wrestling?
I'm
curious to hear it myself.
I already said it, and I tried to sneak in 12 times about Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy. The Hardy brothers are my favorite. They're my favorite.
Jeff's too busy getting drunk in bar fights.
Jeff Hardy. I love you, but Jeff Hardy is handsome. Matt, I don't know about, but Matt, he's a good wrestler.
And with that said, that's it for the show this week. I am the Celtic Casanova. This is my valet.
Samantha Sparks.
Until next week, keep it too sweet.
Thank you for listening to that Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout. We'll see you at the matches. Goodbye, everybody.